Crimson Desert can be a little intimidating for new players, but this video should remove any fear and trepidation you might have while you're enjoying your playthrough. This video is going to be the most complete beginner guide for Crimson Desert that I could make without spoiling anything. By the time you finish this video, you will understand every system you need to know to play the game confidently. If you've got questions, ask them in the comments below. I'll read and respond to every single one. Be sure to take advantage of the timestamps to revisit any topic you need to come back to later. Now, let's get into it. If you hadn't noticed yet, Crimson Desert is big. Like really big. This is probably the biggest game that has come out this year, and it might be the biggest game to come out this year in terms of its raw size and the number of different systems that are in this game. This game has a deep gearing system with loads of different gear scattered throughout the entire world for you to find and collect. And don't worry, I'm going to tell you how to identify and how to find the best gear in this game. I'll even show you where I got all the gear that I'm wearing on my character right now. I'm also going to show you how to upgrade your gear and how to upgrade the upgrades that you put into your gear, as well as how to get the best mounts, rocket packs, dragons, and so much more. So stick around as we go over absolutely everything that you can do in Crimson Desert. First up, let's quickly go over the UI that's on screen the entire time you're playing the game. So when we pull out our weapon, a few extra things pop up down there in the bottom left. As we can see here, we'll move counterclockwise around that system there. First of all, it tells you the day and the time. The time is really useful to keep track of because most of the time there's not a lot of reason to be playing this game at night, and it actually benefits you in a lot of different ways to fast forward time, because there's a lot of time-based progression in this game where it takes 3 hours to research something, or it takes 18 hours for your crews to go out on their missions or your bank investments, right? And so skipping time is actually really beneficial in this game, and it's something that I'm going to recommend you do pretty much anytime night rolls around. It gets like 6 p.m. Go ahead and skip forward 12 hours. That's going to help progress all those missions, your investments, and your research. And you're not going to be fumbling around in the dark as a bonus. Below that, it tells you what region you're in, and then below that, you've got your minimap, of course, and then on the left side of your minimap, there's a yellow bar that fills up as you kill enemies. This acts as a form of experience in this game, although there's not technically levels. Every time you fill that bar, you get an abyss artifact that you can then use inside of your skill tree to level up your character's abilities or your attributes. And then on the right side there, you see a meter that goes from red to blue. That is a temperature gauge. So when you're in the red, that means you're in an area that is really hot. And then when you're in the blue, that means you're in an area that is really cold. And if you're in a cold area, it's going to burn through your stamina much quicker unless you have ice resistance. So how does ice resistance work? Well, basically on your character, if we look at the stat sheet on this save file, you can see that this character has 3 fire resistance, which isn't really doing anything for this character. The way the resistances work are in sets of 5. So you get bonuses at 5, 10, and 15. So if you want to negate the effects of colder weather, colder damage, and all of those things, you're going to need to get up to 5, 10, or 15 in the resistance of your choice. And that's when you'll start to see your character perform better and not be affected by those elements. How do you get those resistances? Well, for one, you're going to find it on gear, like this cloak right here has a fire resistance level 3. But on top of that, you can also slot resistances into your abyss slots. And we'll go much more in depth on the gearing and the abyss system and how to progress through it later in this video. But to stay on track with the UI, next to that, you've got whatever item you have bound to be used by pressing your button. So if I open up that menu by holding the button that it shows right there, right now mine is bound to 0, which I have on my mouse so I can get to it easily. We hold that down and we've got a wheel that we can use. In here you can have different elements that you can use, as well as consumables. So a stamina consumable, a health consumable, and then a spirit consumable. And you can have any of these active at any time that you want. You can get into that wheel simply by holding that button down. And something to be aware of is you can basically cheese your way through this entire game by spamming your food in a way. So as long as you have loads of food that is going to be returning health when you go into a boss fight, you most likely won't have a problem as long as you've invested your stats in the way that I go over in the stat section of this video. Once all of this clicked for me, I beat almost every single boss in this game on my first try for the last half of this game. Below that, you've got your spirit gauge. So as we use spirit, you can see the leaf disappearing. And then when we stop using our spirit, it'll start to come back. Outside of combat, it comes back pretty darn fast. And then to the right of that, you'll have some more abilities. So this shield that I'm using has an ability attached to it. And then the armor that I'm wearing currently has a abyss gear slotted into it that makes me immune to a certain damage type. And that's what that icon in the middle there means. And then the mask on the far right, it's showing you that my mask is on. This is really good to know because this is what's going to allow you to steal, and it's going to prevent people from identifying you when you commit crimes. Now, why that matters when you're wearing a helmet like this is beyond me. The devs did think of almost everything else though, so hey, I'm not going to complain. And then below that, of course, you've got your health bar, which is going to go up slowly over time when you're not taking damage. And that is the essentials for the UI. Next, let's talk about how you're going to get around this game. There's a few different ways to get around this game. One is going to be to teleport. Of course, you can teleport from one teleport location. They're called Abyss Nexuses. You can teleport to one of these from anywhere in the game. And if you teleport from an Abyss Nexus to an Abyss Nexus, so if we're standing on this one and we teleport to this one here, it skips the screen where you're walking and it instantly teleports you to the place just like that. So it's a less drawn out process of teleporting from one place to another if you happen to be near one of these and you step on it before you teleport. Alternatively, you can also teleport to a solved puzzle location. So occasionally you'll solve a puzzle and you'll see a symbol like this one pop up on the map. Once you've solved it, that means you can teleport to there from anywhere, anytime that you want to. It acts as another teleport location once it's solved. And then of course, if we switch over to the Abyss section of the map, which you can see what button you need to press there to go to it, boom, we go over there and you can see a more Abyss Nexus locations that you can teleport to and then drop off of. So if you need to get somewhere and you don't have a teleport location in that area, check the Abyss Nexus. Hey, maybe you can drop down from above it and land on it that way instead of having to run. Now, when you're not teleporting, there's some other really important ways to know how to get around that are just going to make your progress through this game infinitely faster. So if you're up near a wall like this, there's a couple different ways to tackle it. One of which is to do your triple jump using your force just like that, which is going to save you loads of time. And that is going to be your force palm ability located right here. Go ahead and unlock that bad boy to be able to do that. If you're on the ground, it pushes it forward. If you're crouching, it slams it into the ground. So if you see something on the ground that you need to turn, or you see something on the ground that you need to shatter, just crouch and then force palm, and it does that. Alternatively, if you jump and do it, it launches you higher into the air, and you can do it 3 times. Now, if you get to a wall that's so tall that force palming won't get you up it, you've got yet another mobility option, which is going to be your stab, which you can just basically go forever. Look at how high we got real quick, right? Most underrated ability in the game, probably. It's absolutely ridiculous. And that ability is right here. It's stab. You definitely want level 1 of this so that you can find all the secret waterfall locations, which we'll talk about in a moment. But then getting it up to level 3 unlocks aerial stab, which allows you to basically just fly wherever you want to fly. Now, it does use stamina, so you won't be able to go as far until you get your stamina upgraded quite a bit, which is why I will definitely recommend putting points into stamina often and early, because there's a few things in this game that you'll never have too much of. One of those is going to be stamina, one of those is going to be your silver, and then yet another one is going to be your consumables, particularly your health consumables, but consumables that give you health and spirit at the same time are also fantastic. Now, staying on the topic of mobility, let's talk about your mount. You'll get a mount very early on. You can grab any wild horse that you see in the game and you can make it your own.
Tina, come get some ham.
All you have to do is tame it. In order to tame a horse, all you do is jump on it, hold S if you're on keyboard, hold your joystick back if you're on a controller, and then face your camera the same way that the horse is facing. And as long as you do that while holding back on your joystick or S on the keyboard, you're going to slowly fill up the gauge in the bottom right, and then boom, once it fills up, that horse is now yours. Now, the first horse that you find may not be the horse you want to use forever, because horses do have stats. So if we hold down our block button and we look at this horse right here, we get 3 new options that pop up: ride, pet, or horse inventory. So if we go to horse inventory, you get a screen that looks like this, and it shows you the horse's stats, which can be affected by the gear that you put on him up here. So you can put on horse hooves, you can put on horse armor, saddle, etc., that can increase these stats down here. Now, this horse that we're looking at right now is a legendary horse, which means its stats are absolutely fantastic. The first horse that you find is probably going to have 1 of each stat, something like that. Now, as I mentioned, I'm going to tell you how to get everything that I show you, because there's nothing worse than seeing something that you want but not knowing how to get it. So this is Kimura right here. It's a legendary horse and it's located right here. Whenever someone shows you where something is on the map, just look for the text that is near the thing they're showing you. So Red River on the right, clearly the right side of the map, because we've got just, big ocean to the right over here. So you start over here in Hernand, go all the way to the right, and there it is right there, just above this V. And on your way there, you'll be able to find an Abyss Nexus, actually a few of them on your way there. that you can teleport back to later on. And that's where you'll be able to find this legendary horse right here. It'll be down under a cave system in that area. And just a heads up, this is not the only legendary horse in the game, but it's one you can get anytime you feel like making the trek over here. The map is massive, but it doesn't take nearly as long as you might think. And it's real easy to run by enemies in this game. Keep running, you'll lose them. And so you can get to any point on this map that you want to whenever you feel like it. It's just a little bit of a trek. Another way to see your horse stats, if you want to check it out, is go to your inventory, and then the right tab here will be your mount. You can see the gear and the stats here. Beyond that, when it comes to mobility, you've of course got the ability to fly. You've got the ability to glide. You can double tap your sprint button to glide faster and farther. And a really common complaint from players is that the glide doesn't quite last as long as they would like it to, so we may see the developers lengthen that, but we'll see. It hasn't particularly bothered me because I know there's a lot of ways to get around in this game. With the invention of AI, scamming has never been more prevalent on the internet. Whether it's deals that are too good to be true or fraudsters that are using AI to impersonate someone's voice or appearance, scams are on the rise. Everyone knows someone that clicked on a link that they thought was safe, only to find out in hindsight there was some pretty obvious warning signs, like it was a message that came from the blue from someone they hadn't talked to in forever, or it was telling them that they needed to act now. Fortunately, all of this is really easy to avoid. When it comes to your digital entertainment purchases, you can protect yourself by always using the official G2A channels and apps, and always be skeptical of any unsolicited messages. And most importantly, always activate 2FA on your accounts. It only takes a moment, and it's 100 times easier than retrieving an account that you lost control of. Fortunately, G2A has your back. Its anti-fraud system scans millions of transactions in real time to spot anomalies while also being supported by expert human judgment. Thanks to this comprehensive approach, G2A's fraud rate remains much lower than the industry average. And with support for over 400 banking channels, a wide range of both global and local payment methods, and advanced security technologies, G2A ensures that every transaction is fast and safe, because you shouldn't have to worry about being scammed while making your digital entertainment purchases, because nothing feels as good as saving a ton of money. Just look at the deals that are on G2A.com right now. It has never been easier to save money. Click my link in the description to see how much G2A can save you. Shout out to G2A.com for sponsoring this segment. Now let's get back to the video. In order to be able to dash while you're in the air like that, let's go into our skills section here and talk about this really quickly next. So when you start the game, you have access to all of these skills that you can unlock, and you're probably not sure which ones are worth and which ones are not. So let's talk about that really quick. One of the first things I would make sure you do is make sure you've got a level of stab. And again, you can get it to level 3 whenever you want to be able to take advantage of the aerial stab maneuver that basically lets you fly up any wall or surface that you want to and negate, the whole problem of getting up areas. And then there's this one right here, blinding flash finisher. This is a phenomenal ability. This is part of why it's been so easy to work my way through the game. When you use it, it slows down time, and then it does a combo on the enemy, allowing you to get in many hits in quick succession, followed by a massive AoE one that will damage every enemy nearby. It's really good for clearing out loads of enemies or for whittling down a boss. I recommend unlocking this one sooner than later and getting comfortable using it. It does cost spirit to use it, which is why you will want to eventually put a few points into spirit. But before you do that, definitely put a lot of points into stamina up top. That's the blue one. It's a little bit counterintuitive, I know, but it is. The blue is stamina in this game, and the green is spirit, which acts kind of like your mana in other games. And then the bottom right, you've got health. And a little bit into health, putting a couple of points into health nearly doubles your health. So it's very worthwhile to put a few levels into health, maybe get 5 points into stamina and 4 points into health early on, and it's going to make bosses much easier. When you've got big health pools, you're not going to be getting one shot. You'll have a lot of time to use your food consumables to get you topped off, making boss fights really easy. Other skills that are really useful for having, of course, Force Palm. This is what's allowing us to triple jump. Force Current is really useful for a variety of things that you're going to need to do. Solving puzzles. It can be used to knock down trees. It can be used to mine ore veins that are in inconvenient locations. It's got lots of uses. You can even use it to set pyres on fire. Double jump is nice, but since you've got the triple jump from using your spirit, it's less important than it typically would be in a game like this. And really, those are the only ones I would say are super helpful. And you can unlock these in any order you want. Just because there's a gray line connecting them, I think that's a relic of the past for this game, because that line doesn't mean anything now. You can get one without having the prerequisite, no problem. You can grab any node on this tree at at any point, with the exception of some, like down here, there's these elements that you can't unlock with skill points, and we'll show you how to get those later. Now, these skills do change based on what weapon you're using. So if you've got your sword, it might be a stab, and if you're using your fist, it might be a flying punch, right? So on the left side here, you can select the weapon that you're using so you can see what its effects are. And just a heads up, you are going to be unlocking a couple of other characters that you can play in this game, but you're only able to progress the main story with Cliff. So most likely you're going to want to spend all your points on Cliff and resist the urge to spend a ton of points on these other two characters that you play. There are a couple of quests where you're forced to play them, but then most of the rest of the game, you don't have to. So unless you really enjoy one of them and you just want to spend loads of time on it, you can resist the urge to invest in these characters and you'll be just fine. Now, while we're looking at the map here, it's got a few different styles that are really useful to keep track of. You've got the all tab, which doesn't show you all when you zoom out far enough, but you zoom in a little bit and you get a little bit more detail. The quest one here is really useful. So anywhere you see one of these white markers, that's a quest objective that you can go to. So you're going to be playing this game, you're going to be getting tons of quests. You might be forgetting which ones you picked up and which ones you didn't. That's okay. This game does a fantastic job of making it real easy to go out there and knock these quests out once you feel like tackling them. So they pop up with little symbols all over the map, and you can just head to those symbols. If you happen to be nearby of one, run over to it, finish it real quick. But all of these white markers are the side quests that you've picked up, and then the yellow marker, that is your main quest objective. The environment tab is not going to show you your quest locations, but it will show you just about everything else, including NPC locations. The question marks are NPCs you haven't talked to, and these are usually worth talking to because you can buy things like increased storage space from them, you can buy gear from them, materials, food, you name it, they've got it. So it's always worth talking to them at least once to make sure they don't have a inventory upgrade bag available for you. It's also going to show you cauldron locations. You can use these cauldrons to make dyes, or you can use them to make revive items. Really useful. And it's going to show you mineral deposits and grindstones. So lots of information under the environment section. It's nice to toggle between that one whenever you're looking for something. And then finally, you've got your factions. This game has loads of factions. If you zoom out far enough, you can see which areas are owned by which faction. And don't worry, if this doesn't make a whole lot of sense right now, that's okay. Just know that this game has loads of factions. Each faction has an honor system where you can help them out, get honor points, and then buy things from their honor merchant with the honor points that you've earned from that specific faction. So in the starting zone, if we look at that, you see this symbol right here, contribution shop. Whenever you see that symbol, that's one of the vendors. It says he's the record keeper of honor. You can spend that honor at him to buy all sorts of things, whether it's gear or items for your mount and so on. When you're playing this game, I recommend sticking to the main story. Go to your journal, and then you've got your main quests here, and you're definitely going to want to stay on the main quest probably until at least you complete chapter 4, the price of knowledge. Complete this, because if you go wandering around the world before this, you're going to be missing a lot of the skills you need to solve puzzles that you're going to be running into, and you'll be missing some of the artifact points that you're going to unlock through this, as well as some really good gear. In fact, some of the best gear that you get is earned by beating the bosses in the main story, of course, right? However, it's not the gear itself that's good. It's usually the items inside of the gear. What I mean by that is when these bosses drop gear, the gear itself is one thing, but then the abyss gears, that's the things that are socketed into it, are transferable to other items. So you can take them out of that boss item and put them into whatever weapon you've been upgrading. Because in this game, for the most part, the stats are very similar from one item to another. Like a level 1 item, or in this case, this item is refined to level 5, its stats will be very similar to other two-hand weapons that are refined to level 5. And what's going to end up separating it from them is the abyss gears that are socketed into it more than anything. And some of the best abyss gears come from boss fights. So just one more reason to do those bosses. Now, this game has loads of boss fights in the main story, but it also has loads of boss fights scattered throughout this massive, massive world. This is a game where you are always rewarded for leaving the beaten path and checking out what's hiding at the base of that mountain. Maybe there's a little cave at the end of this quarry. You never know when you go exploring. You're almost always rewarded. And some of the developers have done a fantastic job. Absolutely every inch of this map is covered with a reward for you exploring. One such reward is located right here. Here is a waterfall. And as I touched on earlier, you can go behind some waterfalls in this game. Now, if you walk into a waterfall or touch it, it's going to launch you backwards, right? The force of the water throws you away. And so a lot of people at first were trying every single waterfall that they went up to see if they could go through it. Well, there's an easier way. There will always be a stack of rocks if you're able to go behind the waterfall. So now we do this. We stab our way through it with the stab ability, and then we run back here.
Let there be light.
Turn on our lantern so we can see. And there's loads of loot back here. One of which, that one right there that I just showed you, is the cowl that's draped over my shoulders and over my head. When you get it, if we go to your armor tab, you open up your weapon wheel, tab over to armor, and then you hover over your cloak, and you can have the character pull the cloak over his helmet or pull it off, your choice. And if it's a helmet that has a visor that can be raised, you can do the same thing. Just hover over your helmet and he'll raise his visor or put it back down, depending on the current state of it. Sadly, there is no way to hide your helmet, but since gear is in a lot of ways cosmetic because they all end up with somewhat similar stats, you can either pick a helmet that you like the look of, or you can pick a helmet that shows your face. So your choice. And the location of that waterfall is right here, northeast of Domenis. Over here, where you got these 3 waterways converging, climb up a cliff face, and then on the other side, there's a nice waterfall for you there. And inside the cave under that waterfall is where you get this cloak. A really, really nice cloak. Now it's 5:50, so like I said, we're going to go ahead and switch to the next day so we don't have to deal with the darkness, and to go ahead and progress all of the missions that we have going on and things like that. There you can see, while I was sleeping, I finished some of my missions, which gave me more progress on the camp and the save file. So next, let's talk about something else you should absolutely do early in this game, because I mentioned there are so many ways to progress in this game, right? Whether it's the gear or whether it's your abyss cores, whether it's the food you're buying, there are a ton of currency sinks. And so like I mentioned early on, and even in the mid and late game, you'll never have too much currency. And so one of the first things I recommend you doing is getting your bank investment set up. Yes, this game does also have banking and investment strategies. And fortunately, it's very passive. But in order to take advantage of it, you first have to accrue 500 silver or a nice gold bar so that you can put that in there and start that investment strategy at your bank, which is right here in this building inside of town. So the first thing you're going to need is a gold bar, which is located here in the Lion Crest Manor. Fortunately, it's really easy to get. All you're going to do is you can either run up there, or if you've gotten far enough in the main story quest, you'll have this unlocked up here and you'll be able to teleport to it. And then what you're going to do is sneak into the manor, because they won't let you just go on in. And then once you get in, head downstairs. And then when you look at this fireplace, you'll be able to open this, and inside there will be a gold bar. Easy as that. So that's right in there. It's just northwest of the town you start in. Now, in order to steal that, you're going to need to make sure your mask is equipped. If you don't have a mask yet, you can buy it from a vendor, or you can do your first bounty, which will then give you a mask as a reward. And don't worry, we'll talk about how to do bounties soon. And fortunately, they're happy to see us go. All right, so when you come into the bank, you'll talk to this fine gentleman right here, and you'll be given the option to make money off your money. You can deposit the gold bar you just found, and then once that gold bar is deposited, you can choose a investment strategy. So you get to choose between low risk, medium risk, or high risk. Low risk is going to give you somewhere between 0 and 2% on your investment. Medium risk is going to give you between -15 and 20%, and then high risk is going to give you between -50 and 55%. So really large swings in possible outcomes for your investment there. But even the 2% investment can be really nice returns passively over time as you keep coming back here, especially when you get a few more gold bars in here. And I'll show you how to do that in a later section of this video. I'll show you the best gold farm location in the game so that you never need to worry about money again. But now with that going, you're going to be getting somewhere between 5 and 10 silver every few in-game days, which goes by really fast. And that's plenty of silver, especially early in the game, until you get to the gold sink that is your abyss gears section. Now, if you're in a real pinch and you don't want to wait for a little bit more currency, you can walk in the door here, but make sure your mask is on. And then behind him is a room full of boxes. You can loot these boxes. Make sure you choose the loot option, right? When you hold block and you look at an item in here, you've got the option to buy it or the option to steal it. Make sure you choose the option to steal it so that you're making money and not losing money on this process. And you can pick up all of the deposit boxes in here. And then once they're in your inventory, you can go to your inventory and you can open up all of those deposit boxes that will be in your inventory. And doing that, you can get somewhere between 50 and 90 silver real quick. But just be aware, every time you steal in a town, it is going to lower your reputation by 5 points. points in that town. Now, that's not a terribly big deal because eventually you're going to be getting so much reputation that that won't matter, but just something to be aware of. All right, so on the topic of leveling up, one of the most important abilities you have in this game is called Blinding Flash. You hold block and light attack at the same time, and it's going to highlight important places on the map for you. These are going to either be teleport locations or they'll be abyssal artifacts that you can use in your skill tree here to level up your character. So from here, we can see that there's one right over there. So we'll go ahead and head towards that one. So here is the source of the light that we could see. So we get up to it and we see there's a sealed abyss artifact. What that means is we're going to have to unseal it by completing some task. So we'll pick up the artifact and after a moment it allows us to stow it. And then if we look at the inventory, we can see right here we have loads of these collected, these sealed artifacts that we still have yet to unlock. Here's one that we did unlock. It's glowing blue. That's how we can tell that one's unlocked. So we can use that. And that's going to give us an artifact that we can now use in our skill tree here. If you're wondering how to unlock any of these other ones, you can either click on them and then click inspect. And then right here, it tells you sell 3 goats to Bram at the camp's ranch is one of these. Another one, land 30 hits on enemies within 30 seconds using a 2-handed club or axe. 2-handed axes are a weapon you'll be using on Unka, and rapiers are a weapon you'll be using on Damien. So if you get an artifact for those weapons, you may have to switch over to those characters to finish those. Because of how important it is to find these teleport locations and to find these skill points so that you can spend them in the skill tree, you want to get into the habit of using this ability anytime you're up in a high point, looking down on a large area, because it can see a really long ways away and kind of make you aware of points of interest you want to work your way towards. Another thing you'll see occasionally on your minimap when you're running around is a big question mark like this. And not all the time, but a lot of times that means that somewhere in this area is an abyss nexus or a teleport location that you can unlock. So whenever you see one of these on your minimap, a big question mark showing up on your minimap in the bottom left, be sure to stick around and find that teleport location. Now, since I mentioned that you'll be collecting 2 other characters while you play this game, there are 2 characters that I didn't find myself wanting to play very often because 1, you can't progress the main story on them, and then 2, you've been spending all your time and currencies upgrading Cliff, and then you get thrown onto these other characters once in a while, and it would take a lot of investing to get them caught up to Cliff. So while I was playing this game, I spent almost all of my time on Cliff, and I only played these other 2 characters when the game absolutely forced me to. Now, the cool thing about these 2 characters, however, is that you can summon them to fight alongside you. So what you can do is you can click summon and then select this one as well. And now on the right side of my screen, it says press escape, or if you're on console, it'll tell you what button to press over there. And then you just press that. And now it's going to put you into a party. Now they can join you when you're attacking large groups of enemies. So a lot of times you'll run into a camp with literally hundreds of enemies in this game. It's absolutely impressive how many enemies you'll be fighting in some of these massive camps. And so taking down that many enemies all by yourself can be a little bit tiresome. It can take a little bit of time, especially before your build really gets ramping. And so having 2 allies on your team helping you take down that fortress can be pretty nice to have. So it just makes it a little easier. It just speeds up the process. You'll be trying to fill up that meter, get it all the way down from 100%. And sometimes you're only getting a fraction of a percent per kill. And so, having them around to help you with that can be really nice. And then eventually you'll run into a part of the game where it says, this is Cliff's story, only Cliff can do this, and it's going to disperse your party and send the other 2 on their way again, and you can reform anytime that you want to. Anytime that you want to switch characters, all you have to do is hold your character select button. On PC, it's F1, and then you can choose the character that you want to switch to. So if we hover over him, it switches to him. We hover over her, it switches to her. And this is going to be always true, even when they're not in a party right next to each other. They could be on opposite ends of the world, and it will send you to that character wherever they might be. Like I mentioned, each character has his own gear. So if we go into Unka's inventory here, you can see that he's got his own armor and weapons and everything. And so what will happen is occasionally you'll find armor that only he can wear and no other character can wear. And it'll say something like unequipable on it. And when you find armor that says unequipable on it, a lot of times that's what that means. It's for one of your other characters. So he can't wear this armor. But if we switch over to her, go to her inventory, click on the armor here, boom, there you go. Now she can wear it. And it's a nice upgrade for her. So we'll give her that armor. If you're wondering when you get these characters, it'll happen as you're progressing through the chapters. Somewhere between chapter 5 and 7, right in there, you're going to start collecting these characters. Next, let's talk about what happens if you die, because you will die in this game. If you're like me, you'll die to gravity more than anything else. And then of course you'll die to bosses and enemies as well. One of the most important things in the game is this item right here. When you see these glowing balls, that's a PALMAR pill. This is what you use to revive. This is going to revive your character with 30% HP. When you die in combat, the game's going to ask you, do you want to revive right now, right here? here at 30% HP and use one of your PALMAR pills? Or do you want to retry, which means you're going to start the boss fight at the beginning? Or do you want to give up, which will respawn you somewhere outside of the boss fight so that you can go maybe upgrade your armor, maybe spend some skill points, do whatever you can to get stronger, restock up on food and everything like that. The nice thing about retrying the fight is that it gives you all of your resources back that you spent on that fight. So if you use all of your food trying to kill a boss and then you still die, you can hit retry and it's going to give you all that food that you used back again. So when it comes to boss fights, the game is actually very forgiving because of the fact that you can literally use PALMAR pills to respawn as many times as you want inside of the fight, and then you can use as much food as you want to instantly heal throughout the fight, and you can hit the retry button to start from scratch on that boss as many times as you want, which will spawn you right at the beginning of the boss fight. You don't have to run back like in Dark Souls or anything like that. It's very generous. But if you are struggling on a boss, then I can't recommend enough that you take a moment to upgrade your gear. So let's talk about upgrading your gear, because there's a lot that you can do when it comes to upgrading your gear in this game. So if we look at this weapon right here, we can see a lot is going on. It's a two-handed sword. It's got attack damage. That's the most important stat on any weapon, is that attack stat right there. Then it's got crit rate level 4, attack speed level 1, and then down below you can see all of the abyss gears that are socketed into this weapon. And we have Ator's Orb. You'll notice that the top one there is gold. That means it's a skill that actually triggers. I can trigger that ability when I use this weapon. So when we right click, it sends these orbs out, and those orbs will fly at any nearby enemy, whether they're on the ground or whether they're flying. So it can be really nice when I'm fighting something that's in the air. And then below that, we've got attack speed, crit rate, attack, and crit rate 1. For right now, we're going to ignore the abyss gears at the bottom of this, because I'm going to do a whole section on abyss gears and the progression of abyss gears, how to craft them, how to upgrade them, how to find them, all of that stuff. I'll do that in a moment. But first, let's talk about the gear itself and how it works. So this two-handed sword, if we took all the abyss gears out of this, it would have attack and it would have crit rate. So this weapon came with crit rate on it, and that might be one of the things that makes this weapon appealing to you as opposed to another two-hand weapon that might have rolled without the crit rate option on it. For instance, like this one-handed weapon right here, this Wolf's Fang, it's got no extra stats on it, right? So this is one you would want to look to replace as soon as possible. Now, below the attack speed there, you see the multiple hashes. This is the refinement level of this item. You can refine items, and sometimes refining items will add new stats to them, particularly on jewelry. So at low levels, this jewelry didn't have health recovery on it, but then as you level it up, it gets more and more health recovery. So let's talk about refining really quick. In order to refine your gear, you're going to look for a smithy. It'll be a symbol like this on your map when you're under the environment tab of the map. So you come here, you talk to him, go to the refinement section here. Here it'll show you the gear that you have equipped first. It'll have the equipped tab, as well as any gear that you have in your inventory that is not equipped. So make sure to look for that equipped tag so that you're not accidentally upgrading duplicate items that you're not currently wearing. Then select the piece of gear that you want to upgrade, and eventually it's going to start costing abyss artifacts to upgrade your gear. So the abyss artifacts are used to unlock skills and to upgrade your stamina, your health, and your spirit, but they're also used to upgrade your gear. And this is going to consume a lot of them once you start getting into gear upgrading down the road. But upgrading your gear does have a massive impact on the difficulty of the bosses that you fight and the amount of damage that your armor mitigates when you're fighting a boss. So if you go into a boss fight and he's just shredding your health, you probably just need to upgrade your gear a little bit, which means, you know, go out, find some iron ore, copper ore, some bones that you need, and eventually some abyss artifacts, and upgrade your gear, come back to the boss, and it'll be a lot easier. But if he's still shredding your health after that, then it's likely you don't have enough points in health and you just need a larger health pool. But back to the upgrading your gear, select the piece of gear you want to upgrade, then click refine, and he's going to refine that for you. And when he gives it back to you, he's going to tell you what he did to it. So this one went from 9 defense to 11 defense. Cool. Now, if you have two items and you're wondering which one's going to be better for me down the line, which one's going to have better stats, what you can do is you can go to your inventory and you can inspect an item. So press the inspect button. It's right here on your screen. So press whatever button it tells you to do. And when you're on this screen at the bottom, it says refinement information. So now press that button, and now you can see what it's going to cost as well as what stats it's going to have. See, the stats are changing right here every time we go up. And so what you can do is you can look at the max level of that weapon. Okay, when I fully max this item out, it's going to have 31 attack, level 1 crit, and level 3 attack attack speed base as part of the weapon, which comparing that to the level 1 version of that, it had level 1 crit rate, level 2 attack speed, and 13 damage. So it gained 2 attack speed and a lot of damage by refining this. So if we look at the weapon I'm wearing and we're wondering, man, is this one going to be better when it's maxed out? So we inspect it, then we press the refinement details, we go to the max level, and this one at max refinement, it's going to have 40 damage instead of 31. Now it does get 1 attack from this orb right here, but if we take that out, it's still getting significantly more attack damage. And remember, attack damage is the most important stat on your weapon, and it's also gaining 1 additional crit rate on its way there. So this is an important way to see what's going to happen to a weapon before you spend tons of currency just to find out. You can do that on your weapons, you can do it on your armor, so that you don't have to guess whether or not something is worth upgrading. And you'll notice a lot of these items require iron ore, copper ore, bloodstone, right? There's some materials that you're going to be consuming a lot of to upgrade all of your gear, all of your weapons. So make sure that you are always mining these ore veins whenever you see them out in the wild, and even consider picking them up from NPCs. Whenever you see an NPC selling 2 or 3 of each of these things, grab it, especially the rarer ones. The rarer the ore, the more likely it is that you want to buy it if you see it for sale. And there are a lot of NPCs that sell it, so keep an eye out. For instance, if we talk to this guy right here, right in front of the smith, he's selling some iron ore, copper ore, and blitzstone. So you could pick that up from him if you wanted to save future you from having to go out and do a bunch of mining to upgrade your next item. Because you will get to a point really fast where that amount of currency is trivial to you. Another thing that you can do at the smithy is you can craft items. In order to be able to craft items, you're going to find little red books. Let's see if I have one in my inventory right now. You'll find little red books. It'll be one-handed weapon volume 1, one-handed weapon volume 2, two-handed weapon volume 3, right? And when you read each volume of that book, this isn't it, but this is exactly what it would look like in your inventory. It's a little red book. And so what you would do is you would click on it, then you would click examine, then you would open it, and then you would press the examine button again, and this would teach you how to craft whatever was in that book. Sometimes it's accessories, sometimes it's one-handed weapons, two-handed weapons, bows, you name it. And once you've learned whatever was in that book, you'll be able to sell it to an NPC for a little bit of currency. You don't need to hold on to it. And that goes for any piece of paper, any book that you've already acquired the knowledge for. How do you know if you acquired the knowledge? Well, if we click on this piece of paper right here, it says knowledge acquired 1 out of 1. That means you have acquired every bit of information that you can from that. Now you can sell it to an NPC. It'll tell you what it sells for here. Now, whenever you see a purple item like this, it's considered a key item. So if it has a purple background, then that means if you look down here, we can't discard this. It's a key item. So if you can't discard something, if you can't sell something, it's probably because it's a key item that you're supposed to hold on to until you've completed that objective. Otherwise, you'll be able to sell it. So whenever you see two-hand weapon, volume 1, volume 2, volume 3, or volume whatever of anything in this game, steal that book, learn it. It's definitely worth stealing so that you can then know how to craft it. And then here at the top, it tells you what button to press. For me, it's C, and we can tab through all the things we've learned how to craft on this character so far. So that's how you upgrade gear and craft gear. And then before you head back to the boss, make sure you use a grindstone and an anvil. So here's a grindstone, you interact with it, and it gives your character a temporary buff to your weapon. And if you find an anvil, it'll give your character a temporary buff to your armor as well, so that you're doing a bit of extra damage and you're taking a bit less damage. One easy to get to spot very early in the game that has both a grindstone and an anvil is this little camp right here. And it's located in this place right here. It's just southeast of town, just left of Anvil Hill on the map. Go left of that A at the bottom of this cliff right here, and it's right there. Probably the easiest way to get to it is from this puzzle right here. You can teleport to that, glide right down to this. Boom, you're here. You can use the anvil real quick. We can look at it. Go to inventory. Now, if you look at this piece of armor, it says reinforcement defense plus 10 from the anvil. This piece of armor gets plus 6. This piece gets 4. This piece gets 4, right? Loads of extra armor from using the anvil there. That is a significant bonus to your defense. And then you've got the grindstone, which is going to do similar thing for our weapon. Now we look at our weapon. And our weapon's at plus 6 right there. Very nice. So after upgrading your gear, grabbing these 2 buffs really quick, restocking your food, you'd be ready to head back to the boss fight. Now, speaking of food, before you head back into battle, it's really important that we talk about food in this game. And one of the most common types of food, and one of the easiest ones to make and have loads of, is grilled meat. It gives you 140 HP every time you eat it. And so you can just chug these things while you're in combat, and it's a 1-to-1 ratio. go. So for one piece of raw meat that you have, you can create one piece of grilled meat. And you can do this at any cook pot or any bonfire that you find in the game. But also if you're in a pinch, you can go ahead and cook your meat with your sword. If you're at a boss fight, you don't have a pot, but you really need a little bit of extra meat, you can drop it on the ground through your blinding light. And then in the bottom right, it says what button you press. Go ahead and press that. And you can go ahead and cook each piece of meat real quick. There you go. Now you got a bunch of grilled meat in a pinch. And this game is full of so many random things like that where you're like, wow, the devs really thought of everything, being able to do something that random. It's just such a minor use case. But hey, if you're in a pinch, you've got the meat, it's just not cooked. You're standing in front of a difficult fight. Now you have a solution for that if you're not anywhere near a teleport station. If you've got a teleport stone nearby, go ahead and use it. But ideally, you're going to be coming up to one of these cooking pots like this one right here. Open up the cooking menu and cooking one of the many recipes that you've learned how to cook while you're playing this game. You'll find little pieces of paper all over the game. Again, you can examine the piece of paper and then you can sell it to an NPC so that you learn the recipe, get a little bit of extra cash, and most importantly, get it out of your inventory because you are going to be struggling with inventory issues while you're playing this game. One thing that I highly recommend doing is anytime you see an NPC selling food, go ahead and talk to them, go to the buy menu, and if they've got cooked meat that gives you health or it gives you health and spirit, go ahead and pick that up. You will never be sad about having too much food in a boss fight, but you will be sad if you've almost got the boss killed and you run out of food. So if you see cooked food, it's worth spending your currency on 100%. Also, for the same reason, it's worth picking up if they have loads of lean meats, vine meats, they've got these other meats in there that you want to buy. Go ahead and buy that stuff. Anytime you see it for sale at an NPC, just pick a bunch of it up. And then the next time you're at your pot, go ahead and scroll down to the grilled meat right here. See 140 health, it says in the top there, and it only costs 1 per. Whereas if we were to make the filling grilled meat, it costs 3 per. The filling only gives you 180, but it's using 3. So you get 140 health back per piece of meat with this one. And with this one, you're only getting 60 health back per piece of meat consumed by the recipe. You can see how this one gives you the most health back total throughout the fight if you're crafting the grilled meat. And so you'll want to craft the grilled meat until you get to late in the game and you have way more meat and way more meals than you know what to do with. Maybe you have your camp up and running, and I'll show you how to do that in a section in this video. We'll do a whole section just on the camp so that you can get your food supply to the point where you're crafting nothing but good meals later on. So we'll go ahead and do this. Make all. There we go. There's our beautiful grilled meat. You can never have too many pieces of grilled meat in your inventory when you're walking around this world. Trust me, thank me later. And then at the cooking pot, you can see that you have other tabs of food that you can craft as well. So no shortage of food options, doing all sorts of different things. The ones that give you lots of health, like this one gives you 640 health. It's going to be requiring a lot of random ingredients that you'll find all over this game, but it can be hard to manage that early on because your inventory space is so limited. So you don't feel like holding on to all of these random ingredients for when you next cook. So let's talk about inventory space because that's something that you're going to be struggling with a lot early on. The quickest and fastest way to increase your inventory space is by doing little quests all over the place. So whenever you see a quest marker on the map, let's click over to quests. You can click on it and it tells you what the reward for that quest marker will be. So if we look at this one right here, it says the reward for this is a medium bag. Medium bag means you're going to get 3 inventory slots added to your inventory. If it's a small bag, it's 1 inventory slot. So every time you see an NPC asking for help, ask what they need. And then especially if it's giving you bag space as a reward, prioritize that so you can increase your inventory. There's going to be a lot of these bag quests in here. Also NPCs. So if we click to the NPC tab here, we can see loads of NPCs in here, most of which sell a single bag slot when you talk to them. So always check every NPC vendor in this game to see if they're selling inventory space. If they are, purchase it. So whenever you see a question mark like this one right here, a little NPC symbol and it has a question mark, go there, check it out, see what that NPC is crafting or selling, and maybe you can get a bag upgrade that way as well. You'll get lots of bag upgrades in this first town in Hernand right here. And then when you get your camp right here, there's going to be loads of quests that you do at this camp. They give you 3 bag upgrades each. So great way to increase your inventory is to spend a little time doing all of the quests for your camp. If you haven't gone to the camp yet, don't worry. Like I said, I'm going to do a whole section in this video about this camp because there is a lot going on here and there's a lot to be gained by interacting with it. All right, next let's talk about witches and the abyss gear system because the two are kind of intertwined. Witches exist in this game for the sole purpose of benefiting your abyss gear. These are the things that you socket into your weapons and into your armor to give them extra stats. So when we talk to a witch, you'll get a menu like this, not at the first witch. The first witch is only going to have a few options. And then when you get to the second witch and beyond, you'll start seeing options like this. So let's go ahead and go through this menu starting at the top. At first, you're going to be able to embed abyss gear. Abyss gears are the little things that you slot into your gear. So you slot it in there and it can add things like entire skills. This is gold text. That's what you'll usually find off of bosses. You'll find a boss weapon, and that weapon will have a special ability attached to it. And the ability is actually not attached to the weapon itself. It's attached to the abyss core that's inside of the weapon. So if you like that ability or that effect that that boss weapon has, you can take it out and put it on the weapon that you've been using and the weapon that you've already upgraded. You've already spent a ton of your currency investing in refining your weapon. It would suck to find something cool that you couldn't use. Well, this is kind of the way of getting around that. And this is what makes gear in this game largely cosmetic. There are some minor differences from one piece of gear to another, from one two-hand sword to another, but they're actually very similar. So if you invest heavily in one, it's likely that it's going to be almost as good as anything else that you find. And the difference is actually going to come from the abyss cores that you slot into it, because the abyss cores can be incredibly powerful. They can have entire skills, they can have attack damage, crit rate, they can have attack speed, and quite a bit more. So how do you find abyss cores? Well, there will be enemies that will drop these, like stone enemies. If you fight something made of stone, a lot of times they'll drop abyss cores for you. Bosses will drop weapons that have abyss cores. And then whenever you find items in chests in the middle of nowhere, sometimes there will be an incredibly good piece of gear in there that has abyss cores in it. So lots of ways to find them. You can also craft them yourself. We'll talk about that in a second here, but just know that this is where you embed, and you can embed it into your equipped gear, or you can embed it into unequipped gear that's in your inventory. Now, in order to embed it into a piece of gear, you're going to need it to have sockets that are open. So that's where the create socket option comes in handy. Here, you would be able to take this bow, for instance, which has 0 out of 5 sockets unlocked, and we would be able to unlock it. So we go ahead and tell her to do that. She goes through a little animation, and boom, now we have 1 socket unlocked. And we could go back, we could embed something in there, and we could choose from one of the abyss cores that's in our inventory right now. One of the best parts about this is you don't need to be afraid of slotting the abyss cores into whatever gear that you have. So if you have a good weapon or a good piece of armor, go ahead and slot your abyss cores into it, because it's free to put them in and take them out. You can interchange them and swap them out as many times as you want. The only cost comes from creating the socket, which is only 5 silver for the first one, then 10, and it goes on and gets more expensive. I think the last one is 50 silver, if I recall. So it does get a little bit expensive by the time you get to those end ones. But if you're following the things I tell you to do in this guide, most likely money's not going to be a huge problem for you. Because like I mentioned, I'll show you how to get basically unlimited currency later in the video, if that's something that you're interested in. So that's how you add sockets and slot things into the sockets. And like I mentioned, if something already has abyss gear socketed into it, you can extract the abyss gear in this menu. And that's what that's for. Just lets you pull it out. You can choose which one you want to pull out. It's free. So feel free to mix and match as many times as you would like to. Where this system starts to get a little bit more complicated is under the craft abyss gear section. In this section, you can craft abyss gear. And so if you click on the abyss gear, it tells you what ingredients that you need in order to craft that item. And then beyond that, you can substitute. So it's not like you need exactly a cockroach. In fact, if you have a beetle on you, you could use that instead of the cockroach that you don't have. So you can swap this first one out. Looks like these other two don't have substitutions available. So you can craft them like that. Now, in order to be able to craft these, you first have to buy the recipe. And so each of these witches, except for the first witch, is going to have recipes for sale. So under buy here, they have a very unique set of things that you could purchase. One major one is an abyss artifact. That's like leveling up your character and giving you a point to spend in your skill tree. So if you have plenty of currency, you can go ahead and purchase that if you want. Also, you've got the gear blueprints for the abyss gears. Now, this is what allows you to craft different abyss gears. So you see this one here, this is vigor, this is vitality. So you could go ahead and buy this blueprint and go to your inventory, pull it out, examine it, and now you can craft that abyss gear at her. So like I mentioned, each witch has a different set of abyss gear recipes that you can buy from her. Now, when you go to craft abyss gear, boom, that option will be in there. Now, in the crafting menu, there's also more options. So if we tab sideways using whatever button it's telling you here, it's C on PC. We go next, we've got synthesis. Synthesis is how you take all those tier 1 abyss gears that you're crafting or finding, and you turn them into tier 2 abyss gears and then tier 3. So in order to make haste tier 2, it's going to use haste 1 times 2. So we can do that. So we'll go ahead and select that, craft that. It's going to combine those 2 haste 1s into a haste 2, goes through an animation, and then boom, we've got a haste 2. Very simple, very straightforward. Now, the last one is probably the most confusing of all. It's called special synthesis. And this one, just as it implies, it's going to give you an unidentified abyss gear. So you don't know what you're going to get. So if you want something that you don't have, maybe you have a bunch of junk ones that you're never going to use, tons of attack speed ones, more than you need, that kind of thing. Now you can do this. You can click on this one, and it will grab one of these things. So you can tell it what to grab if you'd like to. You can say, grab my Swift. Let's say you have too many attack speeds. And then on the second one, you can tell it which one of these second options. These ones down here are more interesting ones, I would say. And then the top ones are more simple. You know, it's got simple attack damage upgrade or crit chance upgrade or attack speed, that sort of thing. And then this one, it's going to use something else. Let's say we wanted it to use one of our infinite arrows here. So we do that, and then we get those 2 selected and we tell it to make it. So confirm, and let's see what we get here. Little animation plays, and we got a destruction. Great. So that's increase attack, which is always good to get. Now, I believe we got a destruction level 1 there, but if we look here, it says we had a 50% chance of getting a tier 1, we had a 46% chance of getting tier 2, and we had 4% chance of getting greater abyss gear. So since this is a game where you can save and then load your save, you can save scum this if you want to. You can come here, craft a bunch. If you don't like what you get, you can load your old save and try again. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't, no judgment here, but that is an option if you want to get some good higher tier abyss gears. Now, like I mentioned, some abyss gears have boss abilities on them, like this one right here, shoots out these orbs that track enemies and kill them. And you will find loads and loads and loads of these abyss gears. I mean, just look at my inventory right here. I've got loads of them sitting in my inventory. That's not including the ones that are in gear that I'm not wearing, like these gloves have another 2, right? They are all over. And this is where you can really customize your build and put some really interesting things together to increase your power. You can use lots of triggered abilities, or you can use lots of flat stat increases, or you can beef up your defense. It's really up to you which direction you want to go with this. If you're wondering what's going to have the most impact on you, getting these high tier destruction abyss gears are always going to be incredibly powerful on your weapons. If you're not slotting those boss abilities onto your weapon, you know, in a way that you're going to actually be using, then you can't go wrong with the attack damage abyss gears. And remember, if you are trying to slot abyss gears for resistance, you do have to hit those threshold numbers. You'll have to get to a total of tier 5 ice resistance or tier 5 fire in order for it to actually do something significant for your character. And then the next breakpoint is going to be level 10, and then the next breakpoint is going to be level 15 of that stat. So there's no need to put an elemental resist like ice resistance if it's not going to get you up to one of those breakpoints. Now, one place that would be really nice to come to earlier in terms of being able to resurrect yourself in combat is going to be this witch's lair right here. If you come here too early, the witch won't be there, and that's totally okay for this visit. And just be aware there's a teleport point right next to it that you want to grab. This is directly north of the starting town that you start in. So just travel straight up north along the water on the left side, teleport point, and then there's a little cave here that you head on into. And in here, right here on the desk, you'll find a recipe to craft the item that lets you resurrect your character. So make sure to visit this one. Then when you come over to a cauldron, like this one right here, this isn't the only one in the game. They're located throughout the game, but this is one where you know where it's at. And it's easy to get to. So you come to this cauldron. Once you've learned the recipe, make sure to examine it first. And here you'll be able to tab over to the special items, and you have PALMAR pill. This is going to take 15 rosemary and 2 water. Rosemary is really easy to get once you find a batch of it, and so is water. Rosemary and water are not terribly difficult to get. You can purchase them from NPCs, or you can find them out in the wild. So never pass up rosemary when you see it. Never pass up water when you see it. You can use it to create as many PALMAR pills as you want. And every PALMAR pill that you have is a resurrect in a boss fight, which is absolutely huge. You know, you could have theoretically unlimited tries if you have enough of those with you when you go to fight a boss. In order to get the backpack, you'll have to have Unka, and then you'll have to go to Pyloon, and you'll complete the fire breathing pack quest here, which you can find right here inside of Pyloon. Now, after you read the letter for the fire breathing pack, you're going to want to come down here to the Toadsmith Tannery because we're going to need an item here before we can craft this jetpack. And in Hernand, go all the way down, and right here is the tannery, right above this waypoint. And once you get here, walk up to this, and you need to steal a peddler's pack. Once you've got that pack, then head to the spot that it tells you to go to for the fire breathing pack quest, which is right here, just below the N of Hernand. There's a waypoint as well. By this point, you should have put this place back together and completed the puzzles here. If not, you may have to do that first, then talk to this guy. Crafting an enhancement, you're going to need to create a pot. If you don't have one, it just costs some iron ore and timber, not bad. Then you're going to use that to create the cuckoo pack right here, because that's needed in order to make the cuckoo rocket pack. As you can see here, it says we don't have this yet, so we'll go ahead and make this. Now we have the cuckoo pack, and now we can make the cuckoo rocket pack. So we'll go ahead and make that. And there, now you have it. The fire breathing pack is complete. All right, now we have the cuckoo rocket pack. Now, here's where the bad news comes in. This can only be used by Anku, sadly.
Anger.
But everybody hates that decision by the devs, so hopefully they'll change it for us. So in order to use this, what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to switch over to Anku. But with the backpack equipped, now you are able to fly on Anku, which is a nice upgrade for him since he doesn't have a way to fly before this. And there we go. Now, like your cape, it does use stamina, but it's not using a ton of it. And there you go. That's how you get the jetpack that you saw inside of the trailers. All right, now let's go over the camp system and how this works in this game. So this is a very robust and very rewarding side thing that is a massive beast in this game. And it's also coincidentally one of the best places to upgrade your inventory because you're going to get a lot of little quick quests that take almost no time to do. And all of these are giving you bag space, like medium bag space for every single one of these. So every single one of these added 3 inventory slots to our bags, and there's loads of them. Okay, so there's that reason to do this, is that you're going to collect lots of members in your camp, and you're going to be able to do a little quest for each one, which is going to increase your bag space. It's also going to create a hub for yourself where you're able to purchase just about anything you find in this game. I'll show you how to do that. But basically, if we get our reputation high enough with vendors around the game, we can buy an item from them that allows you to then purchase everything in their shop here in your camp. So all of the vendors in the game's items that they sell will be for sale in this one location for you. So you'll be able to come here between your missions. You don't have to go to individual vendors ever again. You'll also be able to grow livestock for extra sources of meat. You'll be able to grow plants, whatever you want. You just plant seeds, you've got plants, right? There's lots that you can do here as you grow the camp. So first, let's go ahead and address what all the numbers in the top right are. So in the top right there, you've got the number of people. That's 25. That's the number of people we have in the camp at the moment. And you can grow this number by doing all of the quests that are associated with the camp, especially the ones that say there's rumors of GREYMANE members somewhere out and about. You can usually find those right here. So go to faction quests, and then GREYMANE's right at the top. The game is telling you, hey, this is important, don't ignore it. And it's really easy to kind of ignore it on accident when you're just playing through the game, but you'll get lots of this quests right here under the grounds of the sunrise section here that are kind of telling you to go out, and there's rumors of people out and about that you can recruit. Sometimes you recruit 1 or 2, and sometimes you get like 5 at a time. It's fantastic. And then there's also these quests here that are kind of more broad in scope for the overarching story of the game. So you've got those quests that you can do here. That's going to increase the number of people from a few to 10 to 25, etc. And then to the right of that, we have the 8,704 armor, 25,900 of the ore or the rock there. We've got 8,000 lumber, 45,000 food, and then the next number is 39,540 of the currency that this camp uses. It's separate from your currency. And then the number of points that we've earned over there, the honor points for this camp, is 66. So basically your goal is to set up missions that are constantly bringing in all of those resources, because all of those missions are going to cost some of those resources. And so it's a little bit of a balancing act to make sure you have somebody out there gathering armor. So you have one crew out there gathering ore, another crew gathering lumber, another crew gathering food, and another one bringing in income, because in order to do all these things, it's going to cost you materials. materials. So arguably the most important person in this camp is going to be Ross here.
Hi.
You'll come, you'll talk to him, and it says manage comrades. And from here, you can either dispatch the people that you've collected onto a mission, or you can just see what people are up to. So if we look at what people are up to, we can see who's dispatched and who's available. This is especially useful when you have a quest and it says you need to talk to someone, but you can't find him in your camp. It's because he's on a mission, he or she. You'll need to cancel the mission that they're on and send them back to town and then talk to them. So the gold ones are the active missions, and then these white ones down here are possible missions. So the shields are going to give you currency. It's your income right here in the top right. Shield ones are going to do that. The block wall means you've got a project under construction. And then if you see an animal or wheat, it's something food related. But you can get items from these missions that are not just for your camp, right? A lot of these items are camp specific. So if we click on this mission here and then we choose that one, and it says over here, the reward would be 1.9K. So what you would have to do is you would need a minimum of 2 people, but up to 4. Generally speaking, it's most worthwhile to just do the minimum because you don't get a lot extra for each person over the minimum. It's something like a 20% bump in the rewards. So generally it's better to send the remaining people onto a completely new mission. So because this is a security mission, you would need someone with a shield. So this guy's a shield, right? You would have to have someone with a shield, and then you can put anyone else with him. So we could put this guy, Aldrich, and we could send Sylvan out to go on this mission, and it would give us this. So let's choose Capra Pasture here. And this one tells us it requires 2 to 4 members. It's going to take 16 in-game hours. It's going to require 1,000 of your camp currency. So we've got 39,000, plenty there. And the reward will be 1,000 of the camp food, because sometimes the missions will require currency, sometimes they'll require food, sometimes they'll require lumber, block, armor, right? It just depends on the mission. It might require any combination of those ingredients. And then it's also going to give you cabbage. So when you see an item with like a colorful symbol here, that's an item that you get instead of just going to your camp. So you could use this cabbage to cook and make meals and kind of have a passive supply of cabbage, because so what you want to do is match the symbol if possible, because if we put the miner here, we've got 1 person, no bonuses. And then we put Aldrich here with the wheat bonus, and he's got the 10% farming mission reward. So you get a 10% bonus to your rewards like that, all the way up to 30% with the higher tier, right? So if we send him on missions where he gets experience and we level him up and unlock this third one, he's going to give us 30% bonus on those, which is pretty huge. Now, the third bonus here is called Comrade. So what you can do here is you can spend some of the points you're earning, some of your honor, your reputation, and you can spend GREYMANE honor, you can spend your Hernandian honor that you've earned, right? And you can say, I want to put one of these guys with it. Confirm. And look, that one person is giving us another 20% bonus. So that's another way you could get a bonus. And then finally, there's the conversion bonus right here. The conversion bonus is simply earned by going to a church. Right now, it's at 8% because we gave 4,000 of our camp currency, not our own currency. We donated it to the church here. So let's go visit this church again and show you how to donate that. And this is a nice, easy way of using your excess currency to get a permanent bonus to the resources that you collect inside of that region. There's a church in each region. So when you're doing missions in other regions, you'll need to donate some excess currency to that mission instead in order to get your conversion bonus. So right now we're just going to run down here to the church. And for this particular church on the right here, you've got the donation box. So we interact with that and we can go ahead and give 10,000. So confirm. There we go. So now we've given 14,000 to this. So when we come back and talk to Ross here, we can see mission dispatch, go to the same mission, and we can see that our conversion bonus is now 28% instead of 8%. So you're getting 2% for every 1,000 currency that you donate. We gave 14K, we have 28% conversion. Although I think that once you get into the really high numbers of donations, that starts to fall off a little bit, but I'm not positive about that. But you can go over 100% rewards. Now, like I said, there's some really useful rewards that you can get from this, because that one that we just showed you, for instance, can give you cabbage, right? Which is not something that you're necessarily going to write home to mom about. However, there are some other missions in here. So one amazing thing you can do with this is you can go to like the King Shield dig site here, and it will give you these abyss cells. Abyss cells are an end game item that you need to farm that allows you to create, upgrade, and socket your high tier abyss gear. So really essential currency that you're going to need to spend loads of time farming, or you can just run these missions passively and have them automatically go over and over and over, giving you items like that in return. So you can get a nice passive system going here that is giving you items that you need and items that you want. And if you haven't noticed, these missions that you can send people out on here correspond with the areas that you have found in the game. So all of these areas that you've liberated, you've freed, right? You can send your guys out on missions to those specific places. And then you can send your guys out to attack the areas that you haven't flipped yet. So we can recapture this stronghold. You can send 1 to 10 members. And as you're adding members, you'll see the hostile faction combat power is 569. And as we add members, our combat power is going up. So if we add Colton here, it goes up to 561. Otto, 621. And then 696. And you want your power higher than their power so that they'll win this battle. Now at your camp, you've got loads of NPCs. And like I mentioned, you can buy the things you need from them. So we come to this guy right here and he's selling all of these items right here. And if we want, he's got a stock of 30 iron ore or a stock of 10 copper ore, as well as some other items. So what if we want to be able to buy more things from him? Well, if we go back to, for example, the starting town here, where we have an NPC that we've talked to loads of times, and we always greet the NPCs when we talk to them so that we max out our bar with them. So you can see there in the bottom, it says 100 for Rhett, right? He is maxed out, which means he now sells extra things he didn't sell before. One of which is the equipment supply contract. And it says there, if we buy this, then we're going to be able to buy these items from GREYMANE camp. Awesome. So we'll buy that and go to our inventory and use that item. Perfect. Now, when we come to Tran in here, like it said, and we shop buy, now you can see he's selling all the stuff he originally sold, plus everything that was in Rhett's shop, including the Kanta plate armor. Sadly, it looks like his iron ore stock did not go up though. I was hoping that would go up. So it's still capped out at 30. That's kind of lame. But on the bright side, now you can buy all of these weapons if you want to, which could be useful, especially the cheaper ones. Let's say you wanted to buy these and then you can come here, manage provisions. So this would make it real easy to donate weapons. There we go. We just donated a few weapons. So as I mentioned, you can plant crops in this game. This is great for if you want to plant some apple trees so you can make that powerful braised beef dish. So the first thing you have to do to plant a seed is go to your inventory. And then you have to go to the apple seed, select it, and then press use down here at the bottom. And then while you're looking at the hole, plant the seed. And there you go. Alternatively, if you don't have a seed, but you have an apple, you can use the apple, but this time hold down the use button. A menu will pop up and you can go down to obtain seed. And that's another way to get seeds. So if you find some fruit out in the wild and you want to plant that here and he's not selling that seed, well, you can just grab the seed out of it and plant it yourself. It'll take about 3 in-game days for your apple trees to grow, and then you'll be able to harvest them. And if there's anything that's not in your camp yet, and you can't do it yet, do a lap around your camp. Look for anyone that's trying to give out a quest. There'll be an orange dot on your minimap, or there'll be an exclamation point over their head when you get close to them. There will regularly be people that have tasks for you to do that progress the camp in some way. Adding new structures, adding new people, right? It's going to grow as long as you keep doing all of your GREYMANE quests. All right, another thing to be aware of in this game is that you can pass time by sleeping or resting at a bonfire. So here we have a bonfire. At first, you can only see the option to cook, but if you pull out your lantern and you examine it, you get the option to wait. So we could come here and we could tell it that we wanted to wait. It's going to ask us on the bottom right, do you want to wait for 3, 6, or 12 hours? You choose your duration and then you wait. Passing time is definitely something that's worth doing in this game, especially at night, because you have so many running activities that take in-game time. It just speeds them up and you progress those systems faster, you make money faster. So you can do that anytime you're at a bonfire like this one, or just a little wood fire on the ground, or when you're near a bed. You cannot sleep back to back or rest back to back. There's a 12 in-game hour cooldown between uses of that ability. Next, let's talk about cosmetic customization, specifically dyeing your armor. So my character has some red accents, a yellow accent, and mostly black armor. We can re-dye just about all of that if we want to, right? And that's how some of those colors ended up there, is by using the dye system in this game. The way this dye system works is really complicated. It's one of many things that this game did where they could have made a nice simple dye system, but instead they decided to make it a 15-step process. And a lot of good came out of that, but also a lot of unnecessary complexity. So first of all, here's the dye house guy right down here. As you play through the game, you'll eventually get a quest to go interact with this system. And at that point, you'll have it fully unlocked. That quest is going to come from completing quests for your GREYMANE camp. So as long as you're staying on top of your GREYMANE quests at the top here, you're going to unlock this system. For this, what I'll recommend is if you really want to get into dyeing your gear, here is a website called Map Genie. And here you can go to the Crimson Desert map and you can search for specific things. So in this game, you have to find the dyes. You can purchase some of them, and then others you actually have to find out in the game somewhere. And then you can also craft some of them. So if you type in dye on the left side here, all of the dyes that are sitting around in the game will show up. And so you can see that you have bright violet, dark violet, deep teal, bright yellow, bright teal, right? Lots of different colors. So as an example, we'll run over and pick up this bright yellow dye here and show you how to use it on your gear. So we'll just go to the top of this right here. And there it is right there. That's what it looks like. Bright yellow dye. And it's deceptively got the house icon, which makes you kind of think like it's just a simple housing item. But no, it's not. It's actually a consumable that you need to use. So if we click on this item, click on it here, it tells you how you could craft this. And then right here, you can use it so that you can recreate it. So boom, we've just used it. And now when we go to the dye house, we can choose a piece of armor and we can dye it yellow. Now, the thing is, each dye house in this game specializes in a different color. So this guy can do the yellows for us, and the dye house over by the starting town, he does the reds, right? And so on. So there's different dye houses for different colors. So like I mentioned, it's needlessly complicated, but there it is. So when you decide to dye something, let's go ahead and go for it. Let's say we were going to dye this cloak yellow here, our black cloak. So we would click on it. Then you click on the different parts. So you see it light up when I click on this one. Now that's flashing. Go down. Now it's the trim flashing. So let's say we wanted to dye the whole thing yellow. Then once we've chosen the part, we can choose the color, and then we save dye. Make sure you hit the save dye button down here. Then go to material, and you can choose if you want to change the material. This one is the default material for that item, but you can also change it. So this would make it less textured in this case. It removes the patterns that are on it. And then you can also change the repair level. This is especially effective on like armor and things like that. It'll really smooth it out. So for instance, if we go back to the chest piece here and we select this main area, you can see how it's kind of rough. It's got some texture to it, the paint there. And if we go to other, you can see more texture if we take it down to 0, less if we take it up to 100 repair. So you can kind of mess with the texture of your armor as well, kind of give it that nice and new look, or give it a bit of a worn look. Totally up to you. So that's how the dye system works. Like I said, you could choose to try and craft some dyes at a cauldron. So here's a cauldron in this town. So here at the cauldron, you can craft various color dyes if you've learned how to do so. So we've got the bright yellow one here. We can craft this dye. We've got bright teal. We just need blue lavender, shrubby Sephora, and a longhorn beetle. Then you'd be able to dye your armor that color. So it is a really convoluted process, being that you have to find the dyes or create the dyes and then go to a specific vendor for that type of dye, right? Each one does a different color, and there's loads of shades of colors for each one. But the end result is you have loads of color options and an insane number of different dye channels. You can dye the trim of a cloak one color, the main part of it another, the chain hanging off of it another color, right? The options are endless. Now, as I mentioned, you're going to be needing lots and lots of minerals and ores in order to upgrade your armor. And one great place to get loads of that is this beautiful place up here. So right here, there's a little island and there's a teleport location next to it. And look at all of the different ores you've got. You've got garnet for upgrading your jewelry. You've got skullsite ore, copper ore, azurite, and so much more. And there's multiple of each thing here. So this is a beautiful location. So at some point, sooner than later, I would run over here and get this waypoint so that every few in-game days you can teleport over here and grab it when it respawns. And that's just going to make managing all of your ore needs a lot easier. And when you're looking for that location, it's the lake. You'll still be able to see it through the fog of war here. It's a lake just northwest of the Beard Tree Gorge text on the map. So come all the way to the right side of the map, up and to the left, put your X there and run over there. And I would grab this at the same time you grab this legendary mount that's just north of it that we talked about in the beginning of the video. And right next to that, there's a bismuth ore that you can grab as well. Remember to use your mining knuckle drill. And if you've leveled this up, you're going to increase the chance of getting additional ore. So sometimes you'll get 3 or even 4 ore from a single deposit if you're using the mining knuckle drill, because great returns with this item. If you're not sure where to get that item, you can get it early in the game, just northeast of town here at Karen Quarry. You'll be able to pick up House Roberts quests. You'll see a little symbol that looks like this one right here. Go to that symbol, pick up the quest for House Roberts, and do that until it sends you over to the Karen Quarry. And when you get there, the small enemies will have a chance to drop it, and then the boss is a guaranteed drop. You'll kill plenty of both, so you might come out of there with more than one. When you're in this game, you're occasionally going to get a bounty either by getting seen while stealing something or accidentally hitting someone. And if you do end up with a bounty, what you can do is come to the church, the local church in your town. So in the starting town, it's down here. You hover over it, it says Church of Hernand. Come to this building right here and head on inside, look to the left, and you've got this guy right here who is willing to sell you a writ of absolution. This will remove your bounty. This will cleanse you of your sins here, but it is going to cost you the same price of your bounty. So if you've got a 5 silver bounty, it's going to cost you 5 silver to remove it. All right. And as promised, I'm going to show you how to get the gear that I'm wearing. So first up, the helmet, just north of the D in Dominus here. Go to this area. There are 2 different waypoints near it that you could teleport to. So be sure to look out for those when you're in this area. And then what you're going to do here is you're going to walk through this vine and head in. It's kind of easy to miss because this vine wall is kind of misleading there, but that's where it's located. And there are the stats on the helmet. It's going to give solid defense and it gives daze immunity, as well as coming with a health regen socket. But best of all, it just looks gnarly. Next up, let's go over where we got the chest piece that we were wearing, the all black chest piece. It is just above the H in Hernand. You're going to climb up the cliff face there, just north of this river that's running east-west there. Light this fire, and that tower is what you can look for when you're running towards this area. That should be a good reference point. And right behind that tower is this chest that you can open. And there you go. That's where we get the plate armor of Shadows. This armor has fantastic defense, and it comes with petrification immunity, defense 3. So some really solid starting stats, and it just looks great. And it's going to go fantastic with the cloak and the helmet that we've grabbed. Next up, let's pick up the 2-handed weapon. Not the one I'm wielding right now. It's this one here, locked in the mouth of this skull, and it's located right here on the map. It's left of Silver Wolf Mountain to the northwest of Pyloon. So we've grabbed the Darkbringer. And now let's look at the stats on this bad boy. It's got fantastic base attack damage, and it comes with a legendary Abyss gear, the Attor's Orb. That's the one that attacks flying units. And it's got attack speed and crit rate orbs as well. So just really, really nice all around Abyss gears slotted in it by default. Plus, it just looks fantastic. It's got that long yellow cloth hanging from it. And best of all is its moveset here. When you do your heavy attack, it's going to launch homing orbs that seek out any enemies nearby, including flying ones. So really, really nice weapon to have. And when you've got all that gear on, you'll look like this. Really, really nice looking set of gear. Cloak especially is doing a lot of work. And like I mentioned, okay, another thing that you'll be able to do in this game is bounties. And you'll pick up your first bounty right here next to the gel cell symbol on the map. So you'll head over there. There'll be a light post. There'll be a guy standing there. Just talk to him. And then you're going to grab the piece of paper off the post, just like this one right here. I can't do that one again because I've already done it, but I can show you how to do this one. And it's an identical process. It's just a different NPC in a different location. So it tells us how much of a reward we're going to get for grabbing this person. Put that away. Open up our map. And it shows that this person is located right over here. Nice and easy one. Thank God. So we're going to run over there and grab the person. Now, there's a few rules when you're doing these things. One, bring them back alive and you get the full reward. Bring them back dead and you get half the reward. So it is important to try and keep them alive. The next thing is you cannot teleport once you've grabbed them. You have to stay with them. Oh, here we go. If you see someone running away from you, there's a very good chance that's the person you're looking for. So we found Bianca here. And what you have to do is... And this is kind of funny because this is the first time I've had to do this to a woman, but you have to hit them until you have to hit them until they allow you to tie them up. So we go ahead and we do that. In the bottom right, you can see the only option I'm getting is hit or release. We don't want to release them. Usually a few hits is enough. So let's see if we get the option. There it is. Now we can tie them up. And once you've tied them up, you can go ahead and pick them up. And then if we examine the horse, right, you look at the horse, examine the option to load her comes up, and I'll slap her on the back. And now you can take her on back. Try to do as little as possible once you've got these people. It's very easy for them to die. It's very easy for them to be reset back to their spawn location. So I recommend once you've got them on your mount, just head on back to avoid something going awry and having to run back and grab them again. And then you're going to bring them right back to that jail cell we talked about earlier on the map. The constabulary, the constabulary, the constabulary. Here we go. And unload. And you get a little bit of a cutscene. They take the person, put them in the prison. They thank you. And then your reward pops up on the screen. There we go. We got the full 5 silver because she was brought back alive. And as mentioned, completing those is going to give you some of that silver, which is always nice to have a little bit of extra currency, but you're also going to get honor. So up here in the top right, you can see we have 70 honor that we've earned in this town. And then here you have an honor vendor. When you see this symbol, that's an honor vendor for that region. Each region has its own honor vendor that you can earn honor for and then spend it on. These shops can include some really solid gear, although my favorite gear in this game has been found out in random chests behind waterfalls, hidden on the sides of mountains and all over the place like that. But there are some decent items that you can get in here, and there's some decent horse items especially that you can get from these guys. So definitely peruse and see if there's something in there that you want. All right, next let's talk about how to get the dragon in Black Desert Online. You're going to see the dragon in all the trailers, right? And everybody wants to fly the dragon. And yes, you can get the dragon. However, there are a few caveats to that. You'll get the dragon temporarily around chapter 9, but then you'll get it permanently around chapter 11, which is very, very late in the game. So it's not something that you're going to be expecting to have for most of your playthrough. You kind of get it right at the tail end of it and into the what is considered the end game and all the optional content. So it's not something you need to rush your way towards because it is very deep into the game. But good news is you can't miss it. It's part of the main story, so you will get it. One of the other caveats is that you can only ride it for 15 minutes every hour. So there is a cooldown on it. The community is not thrilled about this and some of the other cooldown features, considering this is a single player game. So we may see the devs give some ground on some of those points. But at the time of this recording, that's the way it works. All right, guys, that's everything you need to know to enjoy this game confidently. If you have any questions that I didn't answer, please feel free to leave them in the comments down below and I'll try to answer every single one. If you made it all the way to the end, leave a comment, let me know. And if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe for more quality gaming content. I'm Lucky Ghost. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.